When you start the game, that is, you make the first move, you can open with a center move that will give you 4 chances of winning from the start. When you open with a center move, among the rest of the 8 squares, 4 of them becomes traps for your opponent. If your opponent plays any of these 4 edge squares, he will lose. Let's see. These 4 edge squares are symmetrical, so if something works for one of them, it works for all of them. If your opponent makes this mistake and plays in any of these edge squares, you can win it just by playing a corner. It does not matter which corner you choose, any corner will do. If you play corner move, your opponent will be forced to block you, and then you can find a two-way path to victory. Now you will have to block, but this block will lead a two-way path for you. As you can see, your opponent cannot block both ways, so you will win. These edge squares are symmetrical, so they work the same way. You will have to block. Now you just play here, find the two-way path, and you are the winner. So when you play the opening center move, your opponent cannot play the edge squares. They are traps for him. So the only safe place for him are these corners. Now these corners are symmetrical, so he can block playing in any corner he likes. Now once he plays a corner, you can again open up another 4 traps for him. If you play in this corner, then these 4 edge squares become traps for him again. If he plays in any of these edge squares now, it will lead to your win. Let's check it out. If he plays here, you will have to block. So you block and get a two-way path, and that leads to your win. You just play the opposite corner of your opponent, and you will have these 4 traps set up for your opponent. Now if he plays this square, it will still not work because you get the two-way paths again the same way. You play the opposite corner of your opponent. If he plays here, it still does not work because you get the two-way path. So all these edge squares in this situation are traps for him, and he only has 2 corner squares where he can defend himself. And these corner squares, if played correctly, will lead to draw. Now This is a forced move. You will have to block, and then he will have to block, and now this game is already a draw. It does not matter which corner he chooses. It will lead to draw nonetheless. When you open with a center move and your opponent defends with a corner move, then your best option is to play the opposite corner of your opponent. The other squares will lead to a forced draw. For example, if you play here, then your opponent is forced to block here, and then you block here, your opponent blocks here, and then it's already a drawn position. If you play in this corner, then your opponent will have to block here, you block here, and this is a drawn position. Except this square, all of the other squares will lead to a forced draw. Now block here, block, and then this is a drawn position. So when you open with a center move and your opponent blocks with a corner move, you must play corner move because otherwise it will lead to your win. Then you play the opposite corner, which will give you 4 more chances to win. These 4 squares will become traps, and you will only have these 2 corners to defend. So the general rule for defense against a opening center move is to stick with corners. First, you play a corner move to defend against the opening center move. Then when your opponent plays this corner move to open up for more traps, you stick with just corners, and then it will be draw. And if he does not play this attacking move, then it will lead to draw, so you don't have to worry about those other moves.